morning and welcome to SimWorld Today, a Monday morning post-Sunday football day. I am Marsh, joined this Monday morning by Rick Blaze. Good morning, Rick. How are you feeling? Them Texans, who we're going to talk about, just did not have a game of their lives.
Hey, you win some, you lose some. That's
And you
how the
get blown
cookie
out
crumbles.
some. Yeah, yeah.
March, your guys play this. Your guys play tonight, so we're going to see Tuesday. How you feeling?
I've already accepted defeat on this season. What we
Oh,
should
okay.
not
All right,
accept
cool.
defeat on is giving you a FYI before we jump into a full slate of action. Hard in the Paint debuts tomorrow, 4 p.m. Make sure you are tuning in live to that show. Make you checking in, you're engaging with it. If you want to get all the greatest and latest news, rumors, updates, Hard in the Paint debuting tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you've got all the notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of another piece of great content.
It's a really cool show. You guys really want to check that out. Hard in the paint. It is what it is. What it says it is. You got to be there to see it.
Goes hard. Let's dive into some football. We're also going to talk a little
Pause.
bit fighting news, apparently, down in Jackson State. But let's start with the SWFL. And let's start, unfortunately for Rick, in Houston, where, well, not actually in Houston, but in Minnesota, where the Vikings pick apart the Texans to the tune of 34-7. A pick that you see there kicks off the day for C.J. Stroud, and Sam Darnold looks like #1 overall pick, best QB in the Northland, Sam Darnold, as the Vikings steamroll their way to a 34-7 win. They have 14 points in the first quarter alone. Darnold only ends up with 181 yards thanks to some short fields, about 4 touchdown passes. Aaron Jones, 102 on the ground. And the Vikings, 3-0 with wins over the Texans and the 49ers, two teams many folks thought were probably going to be playing deep into the SWFL postseason. Not to say they can't, but Minnesota undefeated through 3 weeks.
Hey man, you gotta tip your cap and give Minnesota a lot of credit. They have a really good underrated defense right now. Their defense is really, really good. Sam Darnold fits very well into this system. This is a good example of a good quarterback in a system that highlights his skill set. And they're doing. If JJ McCarthy was healthy, Sam Darnold would still be the starter right now. He's playing
Mm-hmm.
that well for the
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota Vikings. So tip your cap to them. Uh, Grenard that played for us last year tore our offensive alignment up. And Larry Tunsil, our left tackle, supposed to be a top 5 guy, had 5 penalties himself. He might as well had on purple yesterday. He was killing us on the drive. Laramie, your big head ass need to understand you're on the offensive side of how you missing the snap count, brother. Y'all on the same team. That is beyond me. But congratulations to the Minnesota Vikings who just beat us up. They just beat us up from start to finish for 4 quarters. It is what it is. We'll try again next week.
The Vikings defense, let's start with what you said. The Vikings defense, I don't think it's underrated at all anymore. I think it's fully appreciated. I talk about this later on today on the podcast. I love watching the Minnesota Vikings, and I love watching them because this defense is just incredible. They had constant pressure on C.J. Stroud. Stroud throws 2 interceptions. The fact that Davis Mills had 12 pass attempts in this game tells you exactly how dominant this defense was, because
Yeah.
nothing could get going on offense for Houston, that they had to bail so early that a backup had 12 pass attempts. You don't see that unless a guy is actually getting serious. That's not 1 or 2 possessions to close out a game. That is a significant amount of time, and that's for good reason, because Houston had no answer. The possession in which I think it was third, they were right around field goal position. It was early in the first quarter or first half, and they had, I think, 3 straight false starts. And this
Tunsil.
is Minnesota. I mean, this is what you would see from a college environment. And the Vikings forced 3 in a row, 2 of them on Laramie Tunsil, as Rick alluded to. Houston didn't come to play, and I think the SWFL, and we're going to get to another game that might lend a similar void. It's so easy for one game to be disruptive. I don't think this means the Texans are terrible. I also don't think this means the Vikings are world beaters. But it starts to tell you a little bit about a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we start to see that the Texans, the cracks in the armor, are starting to show up. Will it crack, brittle, and break? Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. But the Vikings exposed in Houston some weaknesses up front, in the secondary, and an inability, if CJ Stroud is not on his game, to really create a lot of offense. And I thought Minnesota did an exceptional job of that. Let's go to Cleveland, where this thing looked like it was destined for a blowout as the Browns took a 7-0 lead after 10 seconds, and they didn't even get the opening kickoff. But the New York Football Giants rallied back to get a 21-15 win. Malik Neighbors, a big rookie game. He has 2 touchdown receptions as part of his 8 for 78 day. Daniel Jones, 236 yards. And just when we thought Deshaun Watson was coming back around, he's going back home. And the Browns fall at home to the previously winless New York Giants. Rick, this has to tell us more about the Browns, obviously, than the Giants, but this feels devastating of a loss for Cleveland.
Yeah, this is a new low for the Cleveland Browns. If you're the Cleveland Browns, if you're the Cleveland Browns fans, just put a bag over your head for the rest of the season. It is a wrap. The New York Giants, in my opinion, is the worst. But them and the Carolina Panthers fighting. We're gonna get to them in a minute. Or the worst 2 teams in the NFL to me, by far. And you laid egg to the New York Football Giants. Daniel Jones looks like a competent quarterback. This is a new low. And the Cleveland Browns, they hung their hat, they hang their hats on defense. This is a new low for the Cleveland Browns. They're figuring out ways now to get out of the Deshaun Watson category and out of that money bag. I don't know if they can, but they need to blow this whole thing up and start everything over. They are a mess. MESS mess.
Well, you reap what you sow, and the Cleveland Browns, who gave an unprecedented, guaranteed 236,
Thank
240
you.
million
We
dollars
appreciate you, Cleveland.
to take on Deshaun Watson and all of the drama that comes with him, both on and off the field. This is what you get. This is what you get, and it is stunning that a Cleveland Browns team. And look, it's not that the Jaguars are good, but the Browns looked good against the Jags. And the Browns they looked bad against Cowboys. They didn't look this bad against the Cowboys. But the fact that they had a touchdown 10 seconds into this game on a 20-yard field because of a fumble on the opening kickoff for the Giants, and they couldn't score the rest of the game until the 4th quarter against the Giants. The Giants, who have looked completely, to your point, completely inept. I mean, this is similar to the Panthers, who we will talk about in 1 second. This is just terrible. But this is, and I mentioned this on the pod as well, so I'm not going to prelude it too much, but I don't know who's good anymore in this league, because the teams that are undefeated, we didn't think were going to be here, most of them. There's good teams that are 1-2. There's bad teams that are 1-2. There's bad teams that are 2-1. And there's good teams that are 2-1. The Giants. This doesn't mean the Giants are suddenly good, but I'll tell you what. I'm not picking the Browns the rest of the way, even if they were to play the Panthers next, and they're not going to because they don't play the NFC South. This is a bad football team with no path forward, and I don't think it's a coaching fault. I think there's just a lack of confident talent on this football team, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And when you don't have confidence, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't truly believe you can deliver, like I don't think the Browns can right now, you're not going to get games done. Speaking of thinking they can deliver, the Carolina Panthers. My goodness, Andy Dalton just turned this football team into a relevant football club as they go on the road to take on the Las Vegas Raiders, fresh off of an upset win, comeback win on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. And the Panthers get a 36-22 win on the road. The Red Rifle rockets all over the place, 319 yards passing, 3 touchdowns for Andy Dalton. Chuba Hubbard could run the ball, 114 on the ground, and Deontay Johnson a big 122 and a touchdown. Rick, I mean, my goodness gracious, this was a heck of a performance from the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, you got a veteran that comes in who knows the offense, who knows the system, who's comfortable in the NFL. He's played double-digit seasons, and he's making them look like a competent football team. Now, On the flip side of that, they had Bryce Young, who probably should have set a year or two before throwing him in the fire. But if you're Dave Canales, you have to save your job. You got to CYA, cover your ass. And that's what he's doing. So he's going with the veteran so he can keep his job because he's probably should have on his way of getting fired. Now, shout out to the Carolina Panthers for getting the dub. I think this says more about the Las Vegas Raiders. You came in here, they came into your home team, and they put a shellacking on you, and it shouldn't have happened that way. And I want to quote Coach Pierce, who I love for the Raiders, by the way. He says, "Out there yesterday, there were some guys making some business decisions, and we're going to make some too moving forward." I love that. So if you're
That
a
is
Raiders
not a
team, you expect some stuff in your locker room come Monday morning. It's not going to be all fun and games in Las Vegas for sure.
That's not a guy I would want mad at me. I'll tell you that
Nope,
much.
not at all.
He's a dog. Dave Canales is not going to lose his job. I actually think the switch was more so to say this. He was brought in this year, first year head coach, to try to really be a quarterback fixer for Bryce Young, and he, I think, is taking the statement of I can't fix this. This is broken. This is broken in its current state and form, and I can't fix this. And we've got too much talent, clearly. And this is not to say the Panthers are suddenly a contender for the NFC South, although both of the top two teams lost on Sunday, the Saints and the Buccaneers. But there's clearly talent here. There is clearly talent in Carolina, and it is amazing how much Andy Dalton changed things, right? A quarterback, and this is not to say Andy Dalton's going to throw 300 yards every week. This is not to say the Panthers, again, are going to be making some massive comeback. But a quarterback that understands how to move the ball, and it's the small things, right? It's a maintaining possession, which means your defense doesn't go back out there and continue to get beat up. It means making substantial movement down the field. And maybe you don't score, but at least you start winning the field position battle a little bit. And you put the opposing team at the 20-yard line or the 15-yard line as opposed to the 35 or 40-yard line, where all they got to go is do 20 yards and they're in field goal range and they can get points. It's about keeping the offense on the field and wearing down the defense. All of that is what Andy Dalton provides, and it's what Bryce Young couldn't provide. It was reported by The Athletic that it's likely done the time of Bryce Young in Carolina. It should be done. Both sides should move on from this. We talked about this last week. But Andy Dalton made this football team look competent. And that is a huge movement forward for a team that needs to figure it out. Now, you would still wonder their probably best bet for it is to lose and find themselves an early draft pick and another quarterback. And I don't think Andy Dalton's going to stop them from doing that. But this was still a positive day for Carolina. And this was the biggest loser of a Las Vegas loss that shouldn't have happened, was Bryce Young. Because this Carolina Panthers offense looked far too good with Bryce Young not in it compared to what he was within it. All right, our last piece. We're finishing up here, SimWorld U. News came out late on Sunday night that there was a physical altercation between J.J. Ruff and star point guard for Jackson State, D. Woodley, potential top 5 draft pick in the upcoming SWBA draft. Everything seems to be buttoned up now. Rick, any little concerns? We're less than a week away here from the start of the SimWorld U regular season. Concerns that we've already got fighting in Jackson State, particularly a guy like D. Woodley?
Not really. I mean, as I've always said, D. Willie's a diva to me. He's always been a diva. And diva says and does diva things. And no pun intended, but JJ had to rough him up. You know what I'm saying? You say the wrong thing. Sometimes you got to pop up and show him. And I think that's what happened at practice. You know, he probably said one too many things. Very talented guy. D. Willie's one of the most talented ISO players in all of college basketball. Very talented guy. I'm sure they was probably checking each other one-on-one, and he probably said some things. I'm sure he said some sassy things. That's just how D. Willie gets down. Him in those gold shoes, and then before you know it, 1-2 piece, and then that's all she wrote. Practice over. Put some ice on your forehead. We'll get back to it tomorrow. They kiss and make up. It's a much to do about nothing. This is when you know the season is coming around because the players are tired of playing and scrimmaging against each other. They want some real life action against other opponents. So I think this is a lot to do about nothing. It's just Diva Woodley just being Diva Woodley.
There's one thing that I got that I'm starting to think about. Maybe it's not true. I'm not saying this for certain, but it's starting to percolate. D. Woodley feels a lot like Draymond Green in that He's a undeniable talent. Now, D. Woodley, I think, probably has a higher ceiling than Draymond Green, but Draymond Green,
Absolutely.
multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to be in the SWBA Hall of Fame. He's an All-Defensive Player of the Year. He's made All NBA team, All SWBA teams, not necessarily because of his offense, obviously from his defense. But with Draymond Green, there's always something. There's always something going on, right? I mean, it's either kicking people in the Netherlands, it is either punching your teammate, it's swinging on somebody else. It's always something. And certainly there's not a long track record for D. Woodley as there is with Draymond Green. But we're starting to get this, right? We're starting to get this. There's always something. And this is just the latest transgression. Now, again, I'm with you. I don't think this means their season's going to go down the drain. They've got a really tough slate ahead of them moving to the American Conference where the talent's going to get a lot better than what they faced last season. But I'm just starting to wonder, when are we going to be able to go a long period of time where we don't talk about what D. Woodley says or does off the court, but what he produces on it? And we've reached a stage in Draymond's Green career where early on you were kind of doing both. Now we're pretty much only doing the latter. The what is he
Yeah.
doing off, or I guess the former with my order. What he's doing off the court or on the court, but he's punching people in the face on the court. That's where we've started to tilt the Draymond Green conversation. I'm a little nervous that at some point in time that's going to be the D. Woodley conversation because it is a never-ending, seemingly, list of things that go on between fighting with teammates, bothering coaches, speaking out, making his own shoes. There's nothing wrong with making your own shoes, but when you combine that with all this other stuff, to your point about him being a diva, it's hard to say he's not at this point in just the way that he's acting.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's not really news to me. I think for the biggest D Woolley subscribers, it's not really news to them. You want to see the play on the field be the play on the court be much louder than what you say off the court, and hopefully, I'm sure everyone. And Jackson State's a small school. You got to understand, anything that happens, he is the man of that campus. He is
Yeah.
king of the hill at Jackson State by far. The biggest person to come walk on that campus since Dion left, right? So there's a lot of intrusive things that's going on, but hopefully the young man can get it together long enough to focus long enough on the court and not as much off the court so we can talk about him on the court and not off the court. But divas are gonna do what divas are gonna do.
And that is our show. A perfect note to end it on. I will not be in the host chair starting tomorrow. We've got some other things to take care of. So I believe it's going to be B-Ron stepping in and running some host duties here for the days to come. So I will see you when I get back in. But Rick, as always, great chatting with you. Best of luck to your Texans as they try to figure things out. We're going to hope the Jaguars can find themselves to one game below first place, although I'm not quite believing in it. All right, that's our show. We're back tomorrow morning here, same time, same place on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game. Oh, that's the wrong order. Wait, it's a Monday.
No,
Let's
it's,
flip
it's,
it. Be the
it's fine.
uh,
It's fine. It's cool.
tough.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.